It's incredible for every man to understand that you can have great sex life even if ejaculation doesn't happen. A woman can have an orgasm and still not really feel satisfied during sex, and she may not have an orgasm and feel very satisfied.
Do you have any practical advice on how to satisfy my wife? She's coming from work in a few moments. I need to give her the orgasm of her life. What should I do?
But mostly your sexual energy is your appetite for life, because it's your life force energy. So people who feel juicy, who are sensual, who like experience life deeply, they usually are really good lovers. I could just get into like these orgasmic waves just through breath work or like sitting on rocks, you know, so I didn't need any sexual stimulation.
Really?
That our skin, female skin, is not as thick as yours because we have less testosterone.
Right.
So if I like touch you, you know, like this you'll be like, what are you doing? But for me, it'll be like, whoo!
And I can't help but feel that Poland has a very peculiar relationship with sex. What do you have to say about that?
So it is possible for a female body to have an orgasm without her brain registering it. So even though like physiologically she's having an orgasm, she doesn't actually feel pleasure because it's not connected. I think, you know, what was going on for me through that breakup specifically, I was actually suicidal and I attempted to hurt myself a few times. It was like some of the hardest, you know, months of my life dealing with that breakup.
Dzień dobry and welcome to Warsaw Confidential, Poland's #1 podcast in English. Fair warning, this episode is hot. If it doesn't get blocked or banned by Instagram and YouTube and so on, it means we're doing something good here, because my guest today is Magda K, who is an intimacy expert and coach. And you guessed it right, we talked everything sex, intimacy, Tantra, energy, orgasm, everything in between. And that's pretty hot topic, I would say. So you will walk away with so much value after watching this episode that I am 100% is going to impact positively your sex life and dating life. So sit down, grab some drink, popcorns, and enjoy the show. Guys, real quick before we continue the show, if you like what we're doing here, please subscribe and leave a like. It helps us tremendously, more than you know. The bigger we get, the bigger the guests we can invite. If you're watching on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube, please subscribe and leave a review. Again, thank you so much. Back to the episode. Magda, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Of course. So usually we start with the Polish background and all that stuff. But with you, I feel like we can jump right into the meat. And my first question would be, you used to be in a sex cult.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounds fascinating, but also very scary. Can you tell me about that experience?
Yes, I think, well, when you say things like sex cult, I think people have this idea of like sacrifice, you know, rituals, forcing people to do crazy things. It wasn't really that. There's definitely an element of abusing of power. And indeed, the whole community, the school that it was, you know, connected to closed down pretty much because of the accusations of harassment, abuse, etc. But for me, it was actually a really good time. You know, I went...
Wow, okay. All right.
I went there for my personal reasons. I was looking for sexual healing. That's my personal path. And I got into this community. So I met incredible men, incredible women, and I got to experience really the full spectrum of what human sexuality is. I got to experience my healing that I was looking for, meaning going from being non-orgasmic to becoming multi-orgasmic and being able to experience energy orgasm and all of these like crazy spiritual experiences. So I really did enjoy my time in that community until, you know, it got to the point where I just felt like, okay, I think I've had enough.
A little too much.
Yeah.
So at what point you start to feel like this is crazy? This is way too much. Where was it, first of all? Like, was it in Malaysia?
It's in Thailand, a small island in Thailand. Look, so to be fair, when I first heard about this school and some of the things that they were doing there, I was outrage. I just couldn't believe, how can people do this? This is so wrong. So it took me about 3 years from learning about that community to eventually arriving to the island and wanting to be there. So I think because I worked through a lot of this shock beforehand, I was pretty okay. But I stayed deeply involved in the community for 1 year, and then I stayed sort of like loosely involved in the community for I think like 3 or 4 years after that. So it's just kind of progressively kind of zoning out.
So let's dive deeper in that. So how long was it, like the whole duration? Was it how many years? 5 years?
I don't exactly remember because I moved around Southeast Asia, and there was also a similar community in Bali. So I spent about 6 to 7 years altogether exploring Tantra and sexual practices.
Okay. So about this sex cult, what was the argument that made you like, okay, I need to join? Okay, you wanted to heal, but what was their argument?
But to be fair, no one presented this, hey, this is us and a sex cult, would you like to join?
That's what I thought, okay.
No, so I, my background is that I come from a household where, unfortunately, I wasn't presented what healthy love or a healthy relationship is. And so I grew up really cynical about love. And I only got into my first real relationship when I was 26 or 27 in Malaysia. So that's when I moved to Southeast Asia. And when that relationship ended, it was, honestly, it was just like everything came at me, all the pain from the years before, all the health scares and bankruptcy and all of the things just kind of came up for me at once. And just to make it a bit more challenging, the reason why this relationship ended was because I wasn't having orgasm. And so going through that process, I knew that I really want to explore Tantra and sacred sexuality. I wanted to understand for myself what's blocking me. So at this point, all I'm looking at is just myself, the need to heal, to be able to get into a relationship again.
So what made you think that it was your fault? Why did you think like, okay, I need to fix this? Maybe it was the man's fault.
Well, I was living at a time with this Polish girl who was highly sexual. Like she had someone basically over every weekend, and she was highly, highly sexual, highly orgasmic. And so she was there, of course, to watch this relationship and then watch the breakup. And she is actually the one who told me, Magda, you have to do something about it. This is your responsibility. And I actually appreciate it because, when something is so uncomfortable, you're just kind of like, just put it under the rag. Just, no, it's not an issue. And she kind of made me face it. No, this is an issue and you have to look at it. What is blocking you? And so I think, to be fair, so many women do not orgasm and we really do take it personally. I think, generally speaking, we really lack proper education and understanding of sexuality, especially female sexuality. And so men, knowingly or not knowingly, say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing that makes women really shut down and feel extremely embarrassed. That's why women fake orgasm. So women are conditioned to think that if something is not working, it's our fault. Because that's how it's been like for centuries. So if there is an issue with sex, there is this kind of instinct to be like, oh, it's my fault. There's something wrong with me. And I definitely had those thoughts. I thought there's something wrong with me and I need to fix myself.
Because I would assume that many women, they, like you said, they think it's their fault and they don't bother like fixing it. They said, maybe I'm just the way like this and I have enough on my plate, work, kids, whatever. And they just go on with life and they will probably die and never have an orgasm. So what made you say, no, I need to have an orgasm?
So, there's the saying that we change when the pain of not changing just gets too much. When we no longer can bear the pain of staying where we are. That is the motivation to do something. And the truth is that most of us are very comfortable in our pain, in our even misery. We're comfortable because we know it. And so we stay there. I think, what was going on for me through that breakup specifically, I was actually suicidal and I attempted to hurt myself a few times. It was like some of the hardest, months of my life dealing with that breakup. I think for me, it was the first time when I allowed myself to feel, like really feel. And so, like I said, I had a story, like a few years before that, I thought I had cancer. So like I was even like, getting ready to die within a year. And I never fully processed a lot of things in my life. So when the breakup happened, all of these things came up and I was dealing with so much. And so the pain is incredible. And I remember lying on bed and literally begging God to help me. I was just like, I fully surrender. I don't know what else to do. I'm broken so deeply. So I was desperate at this point. I was like, I'm gonna do whatever it takes. I need to fix it. I need to understand what it's about.
So then you start reading, I assume, about the sexual healing and all these things. Yes.
So I had known already some
you
parts
did
of this.
already.
Yes.
Okay, good.
So at this time, I was working for this company, which maybe you know. It's called Mind Valley. Well, we're talking like over a decade ago. So the company was different, much smaller, but they launch online courses on spirituality, energy work, healing, personal development. And so I was exposed through that work, to these different ideas, like such a thing as energy and sexual energy. And in the office, we had the books, Mantak Chia's books, which is, maybe you've heard of them, Multi-Orgasmic Woman, Multi-Orgasmic Man, and Multi-Orgasmic Couple. So I had read those, and I had heard something about Tantra and sexual healing. But again, these days when you go online and you Google, there's so much you can find. That was not the case a decade ago. So you had to kind of ask. And then, it was like, for me, I heard of someone who knew someone who had a friend who went to India to this, Tantra yoga ashram. So it wasn't very easy to get into this, but I just kind of intuitively knew. You know what it's like, right? When you kind of find your thing and you just know that's where you need to go.
Wow, impressive. It's like a calling, yeah? You felt the sense of calling and like, I need to explore this area. It's funny, it reminds me of how I ended up having the same, it's not the same business, but like in the same field. All it was is I wanted to know the unconscious sign of a girl who's attracted to me. So I Googled literally like, what are the signs of a woman in love? And there was this article, like, see this, that, and then I was so interested. And then link after link after link, I ended up in this community of the pickup artists. And I was reading about it. I read the book, The Game, and I did like it. I felt like this guy's a little bit frustrated. And I was not that guy. I had my fair share with women, let's say. I was the popular guy in high school. I didn't have, but I did take the best out of this. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to use or add my personal touch to this. I'm going to have this beautiful, let's say, product that will teach guys and women how to meet, the other gender, let's say. And, the rest is history, but back to you.
Well, it's a good history, though.
Yeah. So tell me about this Tantra. What is it? Because I got excited to have you in the show, and I purposely, and I underline the word purposely, didn't want to do any research in the Tantra or whatsoever. I did hear about this, the sexual energy.
Yeah, so for example, for you, right, without doing the research, when I ask you what is Tantra, what do you think the Tantra is?
I have no idea. So, no, like seriously, I mean, I saw the word, flying around, but I just know it's something with energy and that you can have like multiple orgasms than the usual ones. And I never thought about like, hey, so that's why probably today I'm going to be a little bit selfish and we're going to try to explore the way I understand these things. It's like you're basically always like coaching me.
Well, happy to do it.
You will coach the audience through me. I'm sure we have a lot of questions, and I'm going to also open up, because I also got interested through interview because my relationship during the Corona days, we had this, let's say, fallout because my ex became my kind of business partner, and I lost all sexual desire for her, and we didn't have sex for like 6 months, and it kind of didn't bother me, to be honest, because I was just not into it, not her. I had love for her. I had everything. She was the most wonderful woman I've ever met. Perfect, class, grace, everything. It was just not my partner. It was not for me. And a big believer in energy and spirituality. So we were not meant for each other. It's that simple. And I remember, man, we're getting deep here. I remember the day we were making love, and I knew in my head that it was the last time because I felt nothing. I hope she's not watching the show. And the guys following, don't send her the link to the interview, guys. So, but this show is about raw, honest conversations. Yes. She knows that. But I remember the moment I was so heartbroken because it was the last time. I just felt nothing. Yeah. But also, I must admit, to her credit, I have to say, because I was just get sick of Corona actually, and it destroyed. I think everyone got destroyed somehow when you got the virus. And my virus was really bad. I had problems breathing. I lost my ability. It's like I have so much pain in my joints, and even my, erection was not as strong as it used to be. I'm like, so that really added up to this thing. So
I mean, totally. We often don't think about it, but your general well-being and level of fitness, like how healthy you are, has a massive impact on the quality of our sex life. So that is definitely there.
I was not going because we were like blocked at home. So what I'm trying to say here is let's fly back in time. It's 2020. I'm not to make love to my woman. What can I do?
Mm-hmm. Well, so like you said, first of all, in Tantra, indeed, we talk a lot about energy. And so I love this perspective because I think most modern sexologists, they just look at the physical level. But my views are very different. I think that, like, if we look at the full human sexuality, like 30, 40, max 50%, that's the physical experience. But the vast majority, the depth that comes with sexuality, it's about energy. And so, yes, when we start talking about energy, we get to have a different understanding of, for example, why is it that we don't desire each other? So one of the concepts that Tantra has made very popular these days is the idea of polarity. So have you heard of polarity?
Yeah, of course.
Right? Exactly. Sides, yes. Yeah. And so this is something we have to remember about. Now, if you look at magnets, right? If we have the opposite charge, they're going to attract each other. The same charge, pushes them away. So what does it mean for relationships? Well, at the beginning, when we're just like dating and it's all exciting, we're flirting. Of course, there's a lot of this game. There's this banter. We engage a lot of like the inner passion, which is the fire element. But then once we start living together, we become partners and we lose the role of lovers. So, if you think of a good relationship, you play a lot of different roles for each other. Sure. But lovers is the one role you cannot outsource, right? This is literally what makes like romantic relationship different from friendship. Like sex is what makes romantic relationship a different type of a relationship. And so, especially in your case, if you became business partners, that totally puts you like, now we're equal, we're the same. And so the problem is that if you have kids, if you live together, if you have any projects together, you have to be equal. That's kind of how life works. And so we have to be very mindful and conscious about bringing this polarity in when we need this. So I also don't agree with some of the views where they say like, you always need this polarity, because I feel like, it's like men say that they want a surrendered woman, but I'm like, do you really want someone to be taken care of 24/7? Like for a long-term relationship, you want a partner, right? It's like if you need to rest, you want to make sure that she can handle things. So it's more about, okay, we're missing that passion. We got to bring this back, right? It's more like a tool that when you need to, you know how to use. And so the simplest way is for a man to step up in his masculine so that a woman responds to his energy. It's much easier this way than the other way around. So expecting a woman to just be very feminine, soft and receptive when a man is not stepping up into his masculine is not really going to work, because the feminine is in response to what you do. So it's more on the men's side, it's like taking charge. It's like, okay, like, and I know this may be difficult if you don't feel it, but it's a little bit like fake it till you make it, right? It's like, so the first few times it will feel forced. You will try to kind of take charge and you won't really feel it. But it's kind of like, like going back into any of your old habits, right? If you go to the gym every day and then you stop, then going back, it's like, oh gosh, I don't really want to do it. But you remember, right, how you felt when you used to. And so it gives you this extra motivation. And so it's the same here. Yes, you lost that polarity, you don't feel attraction, but you kind of almost like force yourself. You're making an effort to push through that initial phase of difficulty and discomfort until this energy just becomes natural, right? And you kind of step back into your masculine. But it's more on the men's side to be leading again, to be taking charge of things. And then you'll see that she will drop into the feminine more, which will now push you more into the masculine, and the sparks will start flying.
So how do you advise? Because now it kind of makes sense, because I'm thinking like in that situation, I was like completely passive. And what happened with me is that she was so good at business that I like, okay, you take on the role, I'll just create, and you do the business side of work, And she was doing it, and she was good at it, and we were making a lot of money. Everything was wonderful. But at the end of the day, she was expecting something that I was not giving. And I tried really hard. It was just not in me. So what would be your advice? Like, how do I step up?
Yeah. Well, so first of all, yes, in the times of the lockdown, it was kind of limited. The possibilities were limited, mostly because for the desire, for the sparks to come back, we need distance. And this can be distance in space or in time. So distance in space is very clear. Like, you leave the house and you don't see each other for a few hours, which was, of course, a big issue during the lockdown, and many couples suffered from that, right? But it's also good, especially when you're together for a longer time, is actually travel, like for a week. And ideally, don't be in touch. Like, don't send each other messages, don't send photos. Let the other person wonder what it is that you're doing, right? So we have this distance. It's like, you don't know me. It's about, again, bringing back this idea that, like, I am a mystery. But there's also distance in time. And this is something that I find most people kind of undervalue in relationships. So think, to the dating times when you're like, looking forward to a date, right? Let's say, okay, you're seeing her in 3 days. You're excited. You're planning it. You're thinking, okay, what am I going to wear? Now, once we get into the relationship, we totally stop doing this. And we actually have this weird idea that it's not sexy, for example, to schedule dates. And so many couples are against the idea of scheduling like properly sex because they think it's like very mechanical. But again, if you were like waiting for the date, you're like, okay, in 3 days, I'm getting laid, right? That's pretty much scheduling sex. So if you can bring this back in a playful way, so something I am a big fan of, and anytime I work with couples, it's like this. I need you to give me at least 2 hours a week. Then I can save any relationship. And these 2 hours is for your weekly date. And so there's like, unless some emergency happens, you don't skip it, right? It's a sacred time in your calendar. And I like to do things that you switch. So like 1 week, partner one comes up with everything and designs everything, and then you alter.
Cool.
Yeah, because I think we all enjoy both, receiving, but also we enjoy giving and doing things. And especially I think for modern women, we don't only want to be in that receptive state. I think there's so much space for women to explore their dominating side, also in the bedroom. And here there's a bit of possibility for a woman to actually, take charge and surprise you with something and do something nice for you. But honestly, for most couples, if you can make sure that once a week, like one evening, you are in that polarity, you'll be fine. You don't have to worry about this every day, though ideally like evenings or mornings would be nice if you could bring that back. But if it's not possible, just make sure you have one evening at a week where you really step back into the role of lovers and courting each other and dating. That is enough for relationships to last.
But okay, so you are saying let's schedule dates, let's play this game, foreplays and everything, So how often is like a healthy, let's say, frequency to have sex when in a relationship?
It's such a common question that I get. This is my opinion. This is not scientifically based, but I would say 3 times a week.
3 times a week? How long?
Oh, well, I wouldn't say how long. I would say how deep you go and how satisfying you get. But this is
like
I would say I'd say something. It's not about the length,
Yeah.
but it's true. We're talking about good sex because I think very often, like, kind of couples think, oh, we have sex often enough,
Yeah.
so it's good. But if your
The
sex is
quality,
not
yeah.
good, right?
Yeah,
If it
that's what I
feels
mean.
more, if it feels more like a physical release of stress or an obligation, which is also a case for many couples, then it's not gonna work. You want to make sure that it's good. Now, to be fair, of course, there will be times when it's messy and you're not in the flow.
Yeah.
That's okay, as long as that's like just a percentage and not all the time.
Because no, I'm saying this because I'm gonna disqualify myself here. Probably all the ladies like, oh, this guy's working. For me, 3 times is too much. I'm not gonna lie. I got other stuff to do, And for me, when I want to have sex, it's like it's going to be the whole night or the whole thing. So it's a serious investment. So probably a Friday night is good for me because we can have the Friday. We will start around 9 p.m. Maybe dinner. Go out, come back, and have the whole night, and then wake up hungover, and I can do that only once a week.
Okay.
No,
that makes sense. So let me add something to this. Let's expand your definition of sex.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. So sex for me begins before sex. It's just who I am. I just love, for example, the way we kind of prepare for it. I feel like I'm selling my services here. Because I'm all about design. Yeah, I have a design background. So let's say the outside look of sex has to be pretty. I love female lingerie. It's just like I live by it. It's gorgeous. I just love it. Let's just not go there. And some other stuff that I'm not gonna go into, and so that's I wouldn't call it the superficial level, the outside aspect,
The visual.
the visual. Thank you. That's good. So the visual is very important. I cannot feel horny if my lady is looking like I might find her cute and like huggily and all that stuff, but it will not activate, let's say, the beast inside me. So I am used to that aspect, like it's date night, let's just, and I would probably wear a suit or something and we will go for dinner and we'll have this incredible meal and we'll have share a nice conversation, go probably to some bar and, like the flow. So I like thing to last. That's the key, because unfortunately, like this is funny. I remember I met this girl and we were doing the whole ritual, the pre-party, the pre-drinks, and we came here and because I also love music, so I like to play my music, and I'm sitting the whole thing, and I could see that she's getting frustrated, and she just asked, "When are you gonna fuck me?" I was like, fuck, I forgot about that part. And she was completely, she's beautiful, the whole thing. And it struck me, because I'm like, we've been home probably from 1 a.m. and it's already 4 a.m. And we're just like playing, kissing, and the whole thing. And I was like, you want me to fuck you? I will fuck you, no problem. But as soon as I'll do it, I need to sleep, And I think that's where probably I kind of suck, I just like, when I arrive to destination, it's almost like the pleasure of sex is gone and it becomes work. So this is my way again. I always try to make the woman orgasm first.
Because I was going to say, it sounds like you're someone who could potentially explore more receiving pleasure. Because if it feels like work, you're probably a lot in the state of like, I need to be the one doing. And it's kind of like up to me. It's my job to make sure that she's satisfied.
Yeah, no, I always try. Sometimes I succeed, sometimes I don't. I'm a human being. But once, like I said, I don't want to arrive at the destination because I know it's over. The spark is gone. Especially if I don't have like an emotional connection.
Yes. So that's actually, we do know that this is how your hormones work. Yeah. So if you are not bonded to a woman and you have sex, your vasopressin basically goes all the way down and you just literally don't even want to look at her. So it's good that you're aware of this. So it's true for most, I would say, absolutely men. A few things I can add here for anyone who may be in a similar situation. So one thing is definitely men struggle with a lot of pressure around sexuality. So something I personally really recommend for couples is to do different practices of desexualizing genitals and kind of taking this pressure off. So one of the beautiful practices, if your partner simply cups your genitals with
Cut your genitals?
cups, like puts the
I heard
like
cut your genitals.
no. I mean, dude, I don't know. If you were like really bad, I'm not gonna stop her. No, but you simply like cover the genitals with the hand. So if I might have your hand, right?
Yeah.
If we're talking or like if we're dating, I'll probably like touch you, you know, just like no expectations, right? Just like this. But you with your partner never touch your sexual parts like this. It's like you touch the genitals or breasts with an intention of something, right?
Yeah.
So here we're talking about touching our intimate parts without any sexual intention. Like there is, especially for men, and it sounds like you have this, and quite honestly with your background, cultural background, that's probably quite like genetical as well. There's this expectation of how you need to be as a man. And so it can feel really heavy. And so when you can be invited into, hey, just like relax, just receive. It's like, no matter what happens, it's fine. You don't have to have an erection. Like we don't have to have penetration. Let's just kind of play around. And when you're tired and you've had enough, we just go to sleep, right? So kind of, instead of making it this big thing and the perfect thing, have more interactions that don't have to be perfect, you know? It's kind of like, and I know I've seen your design, so I do know you're a perfectionist, and it's and you care about details. So I understand we have different personalities and preferences. This may be a bit more difficult. But think for example, I don't know if you have this. So I love going to the gym, and it's amazing when I can have like 2 hours and I can do everything I want. But let's say, oh, geez, I have only half an hour. Oh, it's not enough. Let me just skip it. And this way I can like not go to the gym for a whole week or two, right? True. So instead, what you're looking for, it's like, okay, can we keep the habit up, right? So let me just go today to the gym and do like, I don't know, 30 minutes cardio or like quick sets of something, but I still showed up and I did something. And so it's kind of similar here as well with the with our sexuality. It's great to have these big events, but those big events, to be fair, you can be fine having it once a month or twice a month, but have more smaller interactions when you're just naked with each other and you just kind of caress each other. Again, no expectation. You know, oral sex, sensual, erotic massages, like taking baths together, taking showers together. So there's a lot of like smaller sensual and erotic interactions that don't have to lead to penetration. And that's how you keep it up, right? Because if for you sex is this big thing, like if I was you, I probably wouldn't really be much in the mood for that. Because like, you know, you have to be rested, right? You have to feel good because it's just this big thing. What if you were at your worst and still engage intimately with a partner?
That's true. That's a difficult one. So okay.
So let's change the topic.
No. So here's the thing. I am your, let's say, your student or client, and I am not satisfying my woman. What can I do?
So she's not satisfied.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could see that, you know, she's not able to have orgasms. Let's say that. So am I a bad lover?
Maybe. So as in most cases,
women
it's
before
both.
her were orgasmic.
So one thing first, I've heard it from many men that like, oh, you know, every woman I've been with, she always came, and I'm just like, sure. So it's pretty much statistically not possible. I will say that if you're someone who hooks up a lot, then it's a specific type of a woman who will go for this. And these women are usually very sexually open. Yeah. They feel very comfortable. So they usually do orgasm easily. That's why they like sex so much. But in most cases, it's not the case. So the problem here is kind of similar to what we were discussing. There's all of this pressure on men that you need to be a great lover. So you approach a woman kind of thinking that it's my responsibility to give her pleasure and to know what she wants. And it definitely doesn't help that women on the other side feel that it's not my responsibility to know what works for me. I'm just going to be there and let him do things, you know? Yeah. How often, like, you have asked a woman, what do you like? And she's like, oh, anything. Like, just do whatever you want, right? True. So this is on women. So men often feel like I have to be a good lover. And so you come into sexual experience with a lot of assumptions, exactly based on what worked on the women before. But we're all different. You know, I've worked with so many people, and we did also like one-on-one sessions, like working with their body. And it's incredible what different bodies react to. We have different sexuality types. So if people who like want to be pinned to the wall, and unless you do that, I'm not even going to get aroused.
Wow, okay.
And those who really would be like turned off by that, and they need
type.
very sensual, which one, the pinning to the wall.
Okay, go ahead.
And another like person needs like this very gentle, like feather-like touch and softness and slowing down. And this is what they need to feel aroused. So we have to understand we're all different. So what it means, you as a man, forget about anything you think you know. Just let go of the assumptions and just be super open and curious. And let her tell you what she likes. Now, most likely, she will not know what to answer.
Yeah.
So this is a bit where we have to work on this. So women need to be encouraged to explore their sexuality, to take ownership of their sexuality, and then talk about it. So one of my main like pieces of advice for men is ask open questions. So don't ask her, do you like it? Like, yes or no questions can feel extremely actually attacking, like kind of intimidating. So she'd be like, you know, and especially if you're doing something and you ask her, do you like it? Like, what do you think she's going to say, right? Women are very sensitive. We're trying so hard not to upset you, not to hurt your ego, especially when it comes to sex. So if you're already doing something and asking her if she likes it, you're going to hear probably yes. And if she wants to tell you no, it's probably not going to be a very loving no. It's going to be pretty attacking from her side. So then you will take it personally. So like, we're not really good at these conversations. So having open questions, it's much better. So you could say, how do you like it? Or how much pressure would you like? And then you can be like, would you like more or less pressure or more or less intensity? So you're kind of giving her options. And she may not know, but she's kind of forced to start thinking and feeling her body and finding those answers. And so this may take some time. You know, this is probably not going to happen after the first conversation. Yeah. But if you can establish this type of dynamic in a relationship, you'll see that she'll be taking more responsibility and ownership of her own experience. And she'll be, you know, getting better and better at communicating it to you. And then you simply follow, right? Like actually listen to her and give her what she wants, instead of assuming you know what she wants.
But like you said, some women, they will just say, you know, this guy sucks, I'll just find another man. Or the opposite too. Because, and I'm probably, you know, that, like guys can obviously orgasm every time, but they will not feel the pleasure of the actual orgasm. Do you know what I mean? Like you can reach the ejaculation without not orgasm.
Yes.
How do you fight? I mean, not fight. How do you fix that?
Well, look, I've had, for example, I've squirted, which is like, it's called female ejaculation. And I had zero pleasant experiences with this. Like I didn't even feel it, you know? So
really?
Yeah, so this is the thing. It's like physiological reaction is very different from an overall experience of sex, intimacy, and orgasm. I'll tell you more. It is possible for a female body to have an orgasm without her brain registering it. So even though like physiologically she's having an orgasm, she doesn't actually feel pleasure because it's not connected. So there's physiology, and then there's all of the things that make us human, like our emotions, the you know, love, intimacy, depth of that connection. So actually for men, I think it's much better to focus on the orgasm or the pleasure and just let ejaculation kind of happen. In fact, in Tantra, we have the practice of non-ejaculation, which is the practice for men to master experiencing energy, full body orgasm, and totally like, you know, retaining semen, so not ejaculating. And I think it's a practice that I personally believe every man should really explore it.
For how long?
This is up to you, because there's a series of benefits, and it's kind of up to you why you want to do it. But I think it's incredible for every man to understand that you can have great sex life even if ejaculation doesn't happen, and that you can have deep pleasure even if ejaculation doesn't happen. It also teaches you to last longer, to feel your partner and yourself more, So it's a bit like, imagine you're training for a marathon, but in the end, you choose not to run the marathon, right? Still, the skills, and the awareness that you pick up on the way, it's very helpful.
Now that makes sense. So how does this Tantra teachings or philosophy comes into play, into the improving one's relationship with his partner?
So the way I approach this is Tantra is a very complex, it's actually a spiritual path. It's very similar to yoga. It just incorporates certain ideas that were considered inappropriate in yoga. So yoga, for example, it was a spiritual path created by men and for men and only for a specific caste in India. Tantra was inclusive. Everyone, including women. Tantra included meat in some of the rituals, and it also included sex. But it is a spiritual path, so it's really vast. It's a lifestyle, right? And so it's basically, in my opinion, what we can source from Tantra these days is just take pieces that work for us, but not everyone needs to be following this path of, it's essentially to reach enlightenment, which you can do through tantric sex. So I don't think that people need to really go so serious into this, but I think Tantra teaches us conscious sexuality. So it teaches us, first of all, to slow down, but not for the sake of slowing down, because you can have your quickies if you want. You slow down to learn to feel and perceive. So very often as a man, if you're focused on the outward movement, whether it's thrusting, ejaculation, or just thinking, am I performing well, thinking of your goal of ejaculation, you're literally in a state of going outwards, which means you cannot receive your woman. And it happens so often. I've had this happen to me. A lot of my girlfriends said the same. It's like you're there with your man and he just cannot feel where you are. And it's like you kind of feel like almost like a sex toy. But to be able to feel your partner, especially for a man, you have to switch the flow of energy. You have to become receptive. So you need to slow down so that you're not focusing on pushing. You slow down so you start receiving her. And then you can slowly start thrusting and being outward with the energy while maintaining the state of receiving her. And so this is something that Tantra teaches, which I think is a great skill to have, because this is literally what brings intimacy into sex, So that's definitely something I think is great. I think what's beautiful about tantric teachings that everyone could totally benefit from is considering sex sacred. It's like it's beautiful, it's divine. In fact, in Tantra, we talk about desire as one of the most sacred phenomena, we could say. So the way we look at sexual desire or sexual union, it's literally enlightenment or oneness. So you've probably heard these kind of conversations that spirituality, it's about feeling that we're all one, right? Oneness.
True that.
Right?
Yeah.
And the pain is separation. But then whether it's through religion or spirituality, we find oneness again. And so what is sex and what is sexual desire? It's desire of two people to experience oneness. And if they approach it with enough awareness and consciousness, you really get these moments of pure enlightenment. And this, like, you can expand your consciousness and see way more and experience way more, like things you would normally have taking drugs, let's say. And so you can experience this if you bring this element of consciousness, if you treat sexuality as something sacred and something so much deeper than just, as someone commented under one of my YouTube videos, the comment was, Magda, you're overthinking it. Sex is just rubbing of the genitals.
Jesus.
Well, if that's what you think, then I'm pretty sure that's going to be your experience. But if you can, again, expand your definition of sexuality and also look at it as a spiritual experience and a sacred experience, now you're opening the possibility for like way deeper things. That's what I was saying, like energy orgasm. I when I was doing my practices, I'm not there yet, I will be honest, but like I could just get into like these orgasmic waves just through breath work or like sitting on rocks, so I didn't need any sexual stimulation.
Really?
Yeah, because that's what our bodies are capable of. I'm not sure what I can say,
teach us how to do this thing.
It's like every drug you take, you can get yourself naturally to that state if you open your body and activate yourself. And sex is a really good way to get there because it activates so much energy. It's so intense,
Well, definitely we're gonna, explore that field because it sounds fascinating, I had this guy once. He was a pretty close friend to me. We're not friends anymore. And I remember one day, because he was becoming all spiritual and awakened, and I feel like he pushed it a little too much. And I remember one day, and I'm having here to confirm this theory. He's like, bro, I met this girl on Instagram. We're having orgasm from distance. Like, I just dream that I am making love to her and she feels the orgasm and I feel it too. And I said, man, this guy is becoming nuts, you know? And I still think so, to be honest. So what do you have to say about that?
Look, I can't speak about his experience. It's possible that it was not real what he was saying, because I will say, I've gone through this path myself. And at the beginning, when you get into spirituality and energy work, you're like, I know everything. And you're just like changing your whole world. But then actually, once you go deep enough, you realize that no, you can't actually see energy. You're imagining things. Like there is a difference. So there is a level of advancement that a lot of people don't reach, but they just like to say things. So if you think of this, you can lie down and you can visualize having sex with someone and you can come, right? So there's nothing spiritual or energetic about it. It's basically like everyone has done it. You just play your fantasy in your head and you masturbate. So again, I cannot speak, for him. I don't know what kind of experience he had specifically, but I will tell you that I think what I find really, really interesting is that we think of an orgasm as a consequence of penetration.
Right.
And it's not. Penetration is one of the ways how you can get into an orgasm. So like there's so many things that can do this for you, but you have to be open enough. So you have to open your body, do these. I mean, some people are maybe naturally open, and if you have no inner resistance, you can go into these spontaneous experiences. But like I said, I've had mine during sleep, like pure energy experience. I've had mine after kambo. So kambo is, are you familiar with kambo?
Yeah, the frog thing.
Exactly, right? So like basically you're puking for 2 hours and then, you're coming back. And I felt all of this energy move through my body. And I was just basically on the floor, like shaking and kind of moving for like half an hour, just feeling so much energy and going, like, just riding this interesting wave of like energy orgasm. Like I said, I easily had it in nature and breath work. My friend had her energy orgasm doing shibari. So it's just like, it's about this contraction and then letting go of control. So anything that allows you to just feel very alive and very open can get you there. And so absolutely, like I can remotely connect to my partner, and it can just be visualization that gets me on, or it can actually be an energy connection. But I will say that to have remote energy connection, it's a rather advanced level of working with energy, and probably most people claiming this are not actually doing that.
Yeah, I know. It was a big lie. It's like he just met this girl like on Instagram. They never met actually in person. I'm like, come on, man. We can't be friends no more.
Yes, I will say, unfortunately, I do see it a lot. We like adding extra meaning to things. It's a really interesting conversation I've had recently with a friend.
Stories are the single most powerful weapon any leader can arm themselves with. They are the currency of humanity. And those who tell inspiring, emotional, powerful stories rule the world. And today, I am super excited to talk to you about storytelling. To put it simple, storytelling changed my life. It allowed me to meet the most incredible people in my life, to raise capital for my startups in Dragon's Den, and simply improve my life as a human being. And today, I would like you to do the same. So, I am excited to announce my upcoming masterclass in the art of storytelling. And so, if this is something you're interested in, I would love you to join our masterclass. So, you can leave your details below, and I will be in touch. Thank you so much, and see you soon.
We need to make things more special to appreciate them. It's like just the normal, ordinary is not enough. It needs to be special. And so you'll meet this girl, whatever, online or in person, like, she's my soulmate. We have this very special connection. Does she have to be your soulmate? Does it have to be so special, right? What if it's just ordinary? Like, can it not be good enough being ordinary? So I think I mean, it's a way bigger conversation, but our generation is very entitled, and then we get very disappointed with this. And so we're trying to like make ourselves feel unique and special by adding meaning often to these intimate connections where it's not true. And then you have people who meet someone like, oh, this is my soulmate. It's so special. 2 weeks later, no, it wasn't meant to be, you know?
Classic scenario.
Yes.
So with obviously I could tell that you have a lot of experience, and I think you, so do you have orgasm every time you make love to a man?
No. So the thing is, like, it still stays very true for me, and it's going to be individual, but a woman needs to feel safe. Now, safety is objective and subjective. So what does it mean? Like, actually, like, are you going to hurt me, right? I look at this. But there's such a thing as an objective perception of safety. So this is based on my stories, on my past experiences with men, with my father, with life in general, and I take it in. And so you may do everything right, but it triggers something in me, and for some reason, I don't feel safe. So I do have like stories of abandonment, feeling like I cannot rely on the masculine. And so unless I really feel it with a man, I just won't fully open because I don't yet trust you. So it's the matter of when a woman feels safe enough to fully open. So yeah, absolutely. Like for me, I've seen that it doesn't happen all the time. But again, I'll say it's really good to kind of, like, orgasm doesn't make sex good, at least not for women. Like a woman can have an orgasm and still not really feel satisfied during sex, and she may not have an orgasm and feel very satisfied. Now, quickies are a bit different because there's no deep connection. Yes, it's a bit different, and usually it is about an orgasm. But when we talk about being with someone in a relationship where you do share connection, the fulfillment and satisfaction comes from two things. One is how deeply you go with your partner. So it's the sense of love, of literally intimacy, right? Like you know, can I really open up to you? Can we be vulnerable? Can we be raw? And second is you need to move energy. Because when the energy doesn't move, especially sexual energy, it creates frustration, and then you're just kind of like, oh, and we end up arguing. So you need to move energy enough. But you move energy through orgasm, yes, but also through any movement, through proper breathing, through shaking, through laughing. So as long as there's a lot of energy moving in the sexual act and there is intimacy, you will most likely be satisfied.
So does any woman or a man have to go through all this, let's say, trainings to be able to have a good sex life in a relationship?
It depends. Yeah. So I always say to people, everyone has the potential to have a six-pack.
Yeah, it's true. We all have them. Yeah,
exactly, right? Yeah. It's you know, and this is a lot of things, your genetics, your habits, and then what you do, etc. It's same here. So some people are naturally already tantric. Like, you know, they may have never heard the term, never studied anything, but they're just really open sexually. And then you have other people who are very tight. And I have, for example, you know, met, I used to do CrossFit quite intensely and in Bali. So basically a standard thing is like you go to the gym, everyone is like half naked, like all the guys are shirtless. The best bodies I've ever seen, but most of these men, I couldn't feel them. So the sexual energy wasn't activated in them. And so it's about activating this energy, and you can activate it in different ways. But mostly your sexual energy is your appetite for life, because it's your life force energy. Wow. So people who feel juicy, who are sensual, who like experience life deeply, they usually are really good lovers. But if someone contracted, right, and someone extremely like, you know, tight, needing to control and tight, they're also contracting their sexual energy. So again, it depends where you are now. Some people may need more work, and some people may just hear something boom, 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 and suddenly they're having these like deep energy experiences. So it is individual. But I will say in most cases, because we have like zero sex education, I'd say it would be really beneficial for people to actually express something.
Okay, so what you were saying about these guys, these tight ones, I never understood what's wrong with them, but I feel like now I do. And so how do you feel this energy? Like, well, what makes you feel this energy? Is it your training in this Tantra and stuff, or?
I think so. So There's a
What
couple
energy are you feeling now? There's 3 guys here.
So in my case, first of all, I am very intuitive and empathic, but that's actually a consequence of my childhood trauma.
Okay.
So people who have any form of like, well, if you know, your family, it's a little toxic, then children learn to be extremely receptive to other people because that's just a way to survive, really. It becomes a survival mechanism of the psyche. So that was my case, and I became extremely attuned to other people. So that's like the downside, but the good thing now is that I really get to feel people on a deeper level. And then yes, I did train specifically for this to open my energy and to be able to feel people. Although I will say that I've kind of on purpose decided to step back a little bit from it and just kind of close my field a bit more, because otherwise you feel a lot.
Too much, yeah.
Yeah, it can get confusing. And also for me, the moment I feel someone, it's like now I'm involved, now I'm engaged in it. And so unless you're like my client or someone close to me, I don't really want to be getting involved so much. So I've become a bit more protective of my space, I'd say. But it's something everyone can learn, by the way.
How?
Well, again, any energy practice, you know, I think these days breathwork is very popular. It's one of the best things you can do, but it has to be like proper breathwork where you kind of break through your inner resistance to breath. For example, I hate doing breathwork literally because of that. So you have this like heavy breathing, and then there's a moment where you're just like, I just don't want to do it, right? This is the magic point, to go through that moment. And you usually will experience very deep like healing processes, like emotional energy releases. You may cry and all of this can come up. That opens you up. That means that you open your own ability to feel your energy, but also the energy of others.
Can you show us how to do it? Like from this breathwork situation?
So to be fair, anyone can do this. Just be mindful if you do it on your own and something happens, it's like you can literally travel back into your trauma. So it's best to do it assisted, either in a class or one-on-one.
Really?
That's how we are meant to be using breathwork. It's meant to be bringing up like a lot of things from the depth of your body. But the best thing is that in Tantra, we do a lot of breathing through the mouth. So you know how if you meditate, you breathe through your nose because it stills you and it like calms you down. Well, here we talk about working with energy. So we want to do the opposite. So breathing with the mouth. But here's the thing. When I guide my clients through some breath practices and I say, breathe through the mouth, and they go like this, right? I'm like, no, that's not it. It's this.
To be loud. With everything, inhale, outside.
Yes, exactly. You're going to get like hyperventilated, high on oxygen, also high on energy. And you'll be kind of getting dizzy, right? And this may not feel good. And when you're feeling this, you can slow down. If you need to like ground yourself by placing your hands on the floor, but keep going, because if you can break through that discomfort, this is when the magic happens. But it's something you have to do for a long time. Like, to be fair, a proper breathwork practice lasts about 40 minutes minimum.
40 minutes
Yes.
every day.
Well, no, not every day. You do not do this every day. Look,
okay.
this is like intense. Think of it like, you know, when you do a body scrub, you don't do it every day.
week,
You do it maybe like once a week or even maybe less than that. So breathwork is intense. We don't want to be frying our system with these like really powerful experiences, right? So whether it's like ayahuasca or breathwork or whatever that's really intense, like give your body time to integrate everything and gradually work the strength to handle it. So I think people have a tendency of jumping a bit too much into these things.
Okay, so breath work. All right, what else?
Yeah, that's very, so this is very, very good. Another thing you can do is simply closing your eyes and just bringing your awareness inside. So when I talk to you, I see you, right? I can hear you. Like all of my senses are engaged. Can you do the same when you close your eyes, right? So if I close my eyes, I actually hear way more, right? You can do this with me if you want.
Let's do it. It's fun. All right, let's close our eyes.
So close your eyes and first notice what you can hear. And of course you can hear my voice, but notice if there are any sounds you can hear now that you didn't hear consciously when we were talking.
From you mean?
In general, in the whole room.
In the whole room.
Like I, for example, didn't actually notice the AC as much as I am now.
Yeah, true. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah. So then notice if you can smell anything. And maybe you won't. For me, for example, my smell is not very developed and we don't really have things that smell here.
Thank God.
But no, even I don't know if you're wearing perfume, but like I cannot smell this, right? But then you go one by one with all of them senses.
I see.
And so you slow down and you just try to notice. And it's like over time you build your sensitivity to everything. And you're like, oh, wow. It's a bit like, I don't know if you've ever been on any like either low carb or ketogenic diet.
Yeah, I have.
And so, for example, when you do this diet and then you have a carrot, it's like you can actually taste the sweetness of carrot, right?
Yeah,
but if we just have sugar every day, then the carrot is not satisfying. So that's a little bit like this, right? We try to kind of limit so when I have my eyes open and I interact with you, I am overstimulated, right? All of my senses, they're just like, geez, this is a lot. It's the same thing when you look at the sun or right at the light and your eyes just kind of close because it's too much, right? So the reason why we are all tense, especially when we live in a big city, it's because we're bombarded and we literally try to shut down all of our senses because we cannot handle all of that stimulation. But if you close your eyes, go into the quiet place, right, where you're not stimulated like this, that's where you can start building sensitivity to consider carrots sweet again.
Good example of a fruit. Assuming the topic. Okay, interesting. But so it seems like your teachings and your philosophy, when it has to do a lot with spirituality and energy. What about some practical advice? Because we know, and I'm sure you are aware of this, not everyone has this open-mindedness to believe in energy and like take some shark CEO who's like just numbers, money, all this thing, and you are telling him, hey, breathe, and he'll tell you, get lost, yeah? So do you have any practical advice on how to satisfy my wife? She's coming from work in a few moments. I need to give her the orgasm of her life. What should I do? I know every woman is different. That's assuming that.
Yeah, absolutely.
What would be the baseline?
So first of all,
and by the way, I'm not married, so girls, you can still text me.
But remember, he wants to have sex only once a week.
True. I disqualify. No, I can do quickies, but if they don't last more than 30 seconds, we're 1 minute anyway.
So with women, let me start first with one thing. Yeah. So I always tell men that oral sex is not foreplay. For a woman, it's already sex.
Interesting.
So the foreplay that a woman needs starts way before that. And it has to do with just how we function. So for you as a man, and you can tell me if it's true or not, but let's say you're focused on work and that's all where your focus goes. Now suddenly sex becomes a thing and you can totally just switch to sex. It's not exactly how it works for women. If you want me to think of sex at 6 p.m., I have to be thinking about sex from minimum 3 p.m., right? It has to be already in me. So women arousal, like, okay, I give this metaphor of imagine you have a pot of water and you want to boil it, right? If I put cold water on the stove and then I turn on the fire, I have to wait quite a long time for that water to get warmer, hot, and finally start boiling, right? So that's where women are. We're totally cold, and then we get home, and you expect me to boil within like 2 minutes, right? Or you think that by going down on her, you're gonna get her warm and ready to, orgasm. It's not going to happen. So we want to keep women warm or slightly simmering throughout the day.
I see you coming. So I have to text her at 3 p.m. like, I want to fuck you so hard, right?
To be fair, if a guy needs to put an alarm clock in his phone to remember, then freaking do this.
Okay.
Seriously.
No, I meant texting her, like
but absolutely. Her. And again, this goes back to what we said before about distance in time, building anticipation. So I personally like it. Sending like nudes or like kind of dirty messages. So imagine like she's at work and you send her a message and maybe like you send a photo of handcuffs and you're like, I have something for you tonight. Now you planted the idea. Then let's say half an hour before she leaves work, message her, I'm waiting for you at home, right? Something. And you just keep it going. You keep this water simmering so that then when she's home, she can actually, So that is like essential. That is the most important thing of everything a man can do. Now, the second thing is, once you're kind of together, for a woman, what you need to do is you go from the outside towards the inside. So you do not start with her breast or her genitals. You start with the body outside and then you make your way in.
What do you mean outside?
So you start with the hands, the hair, the face, the feet, and only once you've touched everything, you can start going towards the genitals. It's the opposite for men. Like, yeah, sure, you're gonna like enjoy the full body touch, but just go straight for what you gotta go, right?
True.
Now, it has again to do with the fact that our skin, female skin, is not as thick as yours because we have less testosterone.
Right.
So if I like touch you, like this you'll be like, what are you doing? But for me, it'll be like, whoo, because I am more sensitive. In fact, all of female senses are more open than male senses. So women are naturally more sensual. We can feel more. So that is very important. And I would say before you touch her genitals, give it like 15 minutes for sure.
15 minutes?
Yes, 1-5. I mean, I would say best even if you can go longer, but try at least 15 minutes. And to all the men listening, I challenge you to actually like have a clock somewhere. I kid you not, because very often men are like, oh my God, we're like having sex for an hour. And then you look at it, there's like 20 minutes max. So sometimes you may feel like you're taking a long time and it's been just 5 minutes, right? Okay. So that's the second thing. Make sure you start with the outside of the body and then you go inwards. Now, another thing that really helps is to engage all 5 love languages. So you're probably familiar with this, right? So you want to be telling her nice things. Remember that women very often, we feel like we're too fat, our breasts are too small. We don't like our, I'm not sure if I can say pussy.
No, you can. Yeah.
But we don't like our pussies.
No, we already screwed up the episode. So it's already blocked. So
Here's how to get blocked on all social media.
We might as well just have fun.
Let's go all the way. But women don't like them. There is actually a very popular plastic surgery in the US, in LA, especially when you cut the inner lips.
Oh yeah.
Right, because like women think that this is like
ugly,
and so it's really it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. So most women have a lot of insecurities about how they look. So if you can tell her something, like tell her how much you love her body and how sexy she is, and especially if she has like bigger butt or thighs, so like I love your thighs, I love your thick thighs. Look at her pussy and say, I love her. She's so beautiful. She smells so great. She tastes so great. Like give her this kind of confirmation that you are attracted to her physically. You'll see that the more she feels confident, she will open up, right? So engage all of these love languages, but especially like tell her those things. It really opens her up, and it just kind of invites her to be a bit more, courageous and explore more in sex. So these are honestly the things that are very important. And the last thing I will say is that women often experience physical pain during penetration, and we don't say anything. We're kind of used to that. It's just kind of how it is. We don't want to say anything because you're having a good time. So I would say for men, just try to be a bit more mindful whether her body contracts or not in different positions. There will be some positions where you can be hitting her more. So if you're hitting her G-spot, it usually hits also the bladder, and it creates discomfort. So doggy style, right? When you're in this position, it can be uncomfortable for her. So just kind of check in with her. Also, I don't know the official names actually of the positions, but if she has her legs on your shoulders, this allows you also, like she's lying down and her legs are on your shoulders, it allows you to go deeper. Some men like to move her legs even, right? This allows you to go very deep, but this may actually cause discomfort for her. Remembering also that the position of cervix moves depending on her cycle. And so there may be some times when she's perfectly okay, when you're like really hitting deep, and other times when it can actually hurt her. So remember that there is often physical discomfort, and just kind of be like check in with her, see what she likes. And I will kind of say, while there is no one position for every person, I would recommend for every couple to explore her being on top, but her doing the movements. Because men often grab a woman, just kind of like go up and down. No, that's not what I'm talking about. It's about allow her to rock her hips on you, because this is how she can reach her cervix and have cervical orgasm. So it's a really nice way for couples to explore something deeper.
Interesting. I hope you boys take note of this, all these things. Let's reverse the roles.
There is a workbook after all of this.
Workshop, you said? Let's reverse, because we have a lot of ladies following the show. What advice would you give them? I know it's like, it sounds on paper it's easy to turn a man on, but
Yeah.
I'm a very complex guy. It's not easy to turn me on. So what would advise, I mean, I'm not talking about me in general, but I'm sure there's a lot of men like this as well,
Yes.
who are not sexually frustrated. We've had our fair share of experiences and we just want something, you know, special and unique.
Yes.
So
So with men, what really works is teasing, but very direct teasing. So women often like, we think of what would work for us. And then let's say I'll come, for example, I would sit next to you and like, I'll, you know, just like put my hand and like, I'll touch your feet. I was like, oh, I'm sure he knows I like him. Right? And you're like, what? I didn't even notice you touched me.
well, I do, but average men, they don't, unfortunately.
Yes, exactly. So women need to be more forward. Now, again, if it's a stranger, you don't really do this, but if it's someone you're dating, so imagine that I'm with my partner and he's at a desk doing some work and I come up to him and I literally put my hand on your cock.
Oh.
Maybe I kiss you, right? Or I whisper something dirty into your ear and I walk away. Now, this is when a guy pays attention. You notice the sign. So for women, we need to be more forward. Like men don't react the same way to all the subtle play the way women do, right? So it's like women want the subtle play, men want something more direct because this is when your body will react. Now, another thing is just like with a woman, you start from the outside and you go in towards the genitals. For men, it's the opposite. So you actually need to activate the sexual energy directly and then you can spread it, through the body. I will also say for women, again, don't assume that all guys just want it rough and hard and fast.
That is
because actually a lot of men, like I was quite surprised by this to be honest, but a lot of men really like very gentle touch on their genitals. Like, so whether it's the balls or the shaft, but like literally just kind of like very, very gentle. So I think women just assume it has to be really hard and fast.
Tough and...
Yeah, not necessarily.
I agree with you, to be honest. Okay, we're going a little too graphic here, but I don't know if I can say it, but it's true. Like I've had some, I think once or twice maybe. Like I just have the girl, I met her, and then she's like, you know, we're naked, and then she just go for the cock, and then she's like being so aggressive, and I'm like, Jesus, and it completely turns me off. Yeah. So actually, I'm glad you mentioned that point, that not every man is a beast, and that's fine. I also personally, the other thing that I don't like the girls who tell me, you know, like to slap me and hit me and throw me. It just doesn't feel, you know, because I have this stigma with because there's a lot of culture infused in it. And when I meet someone who's not from my similar culture, I have this idea that they are judging me because I'm from this Arab culture, that I'm aggressive and I am this, you know, beast or anything. I could be a beast if I want, but on my terms. I don't need you to activate me and tell me, slap me and treat me like a slut. So this completely turns me off. I can do it when I want.
So, okay,
you know?
So for this one, this is one of my personal favorite concepts, and it was very healing for me to learn this. So you know how we have personality types, and there's all of these different systems. We also have sexuality types. So in Tantra, we work with elements, with chakras. So basically what we have is earth, fire, water, and air.
Right.
And it's linked to your astrology. It's going to tell you like a lot about like how you show up in life in general. So earth and fire, they're very intense. And these are the signs that, yes, pin me to the wall, grab me, I want to feel this. Earth is very animalistic. So literally it's like, just pounding, breaking the bed, very, very physical. Fire, it's also very strong, very passionate. Fire is a lot about this game of dominance and submission. And so, for example, even flirting needs to be done this way. It's like, oh, you want me? Well, let's see. And like, you know, it's like, it's a bit of like a banter kind of like being cheeky with each other. And you need this, right? So that activates the game. Again, fire is very passionate, very intense, like scratching. Kink, BDSM falls here. Now, water is very sensual. Water loves oral sex, loves kissing. It's very romantic. It's a lot of like undulating movements and a lot of body contact. Air is also a lot of body contact, but it's very subtle, very soft, very slow. It feels like divine. It's literally the kind of making love to reach God. So it's like literally there's very little movement. You're just deep deeply connected, and you don't move so much, you're just embracing each other. You're caressing each other, and it's very, very soft. And so one of the things, of course, for a good sex life is to make sure you're sexually compatible. And unfortunately, people don't know this. So pretty much anytime I have a couple with any sexual issues, I can see that they are opposite types.
So how to fix that? Like, do you have to be the type?
So first of all, you can look at it as, well, let's just explore things, right? So for example, I am earth and fire. So I naturally prefer these types. But if you have the same type of sex all the time, it also gets kind of boring.
Yeah,
so then like, okay, well, let me explore this other aspect. It depends on like, let's say, so I have like predominant earth and a lot of fire. I have little water and very little air. So for me, being with someone who's airy, it's going to be really difficult. But if I'm with someone who's watery, who maybe have a bit of earth, okay, now we have something to work with, yes. But if we have very strong, like lack of compatibility, what I personally recommend is kind of to switch. So one time we're doing it the way you want it. Let's say it's all airy, very soft, very gentle. The other time we do it the way I want it. Because the problem with trying to compromise at any given time is that no one gets satisfied.
Yeah.
Right? And both people start feeling like, resentful and bitter. Yeah. But if you alternate, then you make sure that, okay, I am fulfilled. So then next time I can give fully to you because I know that I am also getting my needs met. So I think this idea that we always have to like meet each other halfway through isn't always a good advice. Like sometimes it's perfectly okay to be like, now it's for me.
To walk all the way. Right?
Exactly. And now it's for you.
That's a good advice, actually. I like this theory of like the compatibility energy-wise, water, earth, fire, and?
So your 4 elements, earth, fire, water, air.
Air. And I think that I personally switch from one to the other depending on the mood. And I think that's because it makes sense to me, like so much sense that I'm actually glad that you mentioned it. So can you share like a transformative experience that you had with a student or a client? That's something that touched you deeply.
I think the stories that, oh goodness, it's hard to pick one. Okay, can I share a few?
Go ahead.
So if I look at the clients I've had, there's a few stories specifically that really like got to me. One is I was working with this man who came to me because, well, his ex accused him that he's not masculine enough, and he really like struggled to find like comfort in being a man. It's like he didn't feel he's a man. And so we worked on this, and I think this is for men, right? I think this is such an interesting conversation because there's this idea of what it means to be masculine. And he was working in HR, so he was a people person. And he thought that because he's a people person, that he's feminine. And we redefine what masculinity actually is, because masculinity is not that you have to be the CEO. You can be a people's person, but masculinity is you knowing who you are and being unshaken in that. And if that's being a people's person, right? If that's being a father, because you don't want to go work, you just want to like be at home, take care of your family. Like cooking, someone asked me like, oh, men who cook, they're not sexy. I'm like, well, if they bitch about it, they're not sexy. But if you love it, if you're passionate about it, it's really, really attractive. So when finally he got that shift in him, and he was like, I am a man and I am masculine, like, just like changing the perspective, that was very rewarding for me. With couples, I have actually saved quite a few couples from a divorce. And it's like, honestly, it's like when I'm like, okay, Magda, this is why you do this work. And there's so much pain when we look at relationships, that have been together for so long. And it's something I can't even personally relate to. I haven't been with anyone for 20 years. So I see these couples and I'm so proud of them. And then I see all of the pain that separates them. So I've had couples who were about to get a divorce after having a baby. They just couldn't deal with that phase. I've had couples who, let's say, hadn't had sex for like 10 years and being able to shift that for them. It's like, think, for example, like you mentioned at the beginning, your ex as well. So think of the beginnings of your relationship. Like there was attraction, how you felt about her. And then at the end, we're like, I'm not even attracted to you. Like, we know that shift. We know how this shift feels from being into someone to not being into someone. But when you can experience the other direction, right? You're not into your partner and then you are again. That is so powerful. But again, in some cases you may hear one thing and be like, oh yes, this is it. And like something shifts automatically. In most cases, it's a continuous work. It's not one thing that changes it. It's the tipping point, right? It's like you build it. And then finally one small thing makes the difference. But it was everything you've been doing. But mostly I would say just by even wanting to talk about this. Like if you think of this, like I'm so grateful you have me here because not many people feel open to having these conversations. So for me, just the simple fact that a single person or a couple decides to let's actually become intentional about our intimacy. That is the biggest shift. You actually start caring about this. It's not just something, I don't think about, or we just do once a week, we never think of this, we never talk about this. It's, instead of avoiding the conversation, it becomes the centerpiece of your relationship. That is really the biggest shift.
I see. Because it's good that you mentioned that. What about the single people? Like, how can we help them? I'm one of them. I am
single. I am single too. People are really surprised. Like, I've been posting about this quite a bit because I feel like there is all of this like prejudice towards single people.
Right.
There's single shaming, which comes in very subtle and sometimes not very subtle ways. I often get asked questions like, how can you be happy if you're single? I think today, the times we're in right now, it's a bit tricky. So we are in the middle of a massive shift around relationships. And if you look at history, anytime you had a generation that was going through this transition, they were kind of paying the price of this because they were the ones changing this. So the shifts we are going through is the redefinition of gender roles. And through this, the role that men and women have in a relationship, and then the much bigger discussion of what is gender and like how can we build polarity if we no longer talk about men and women or woman, men. We have now all of these other options and we don't yet know what to do with this. We're transitioning. So we're kind of dissolving old ideas. I think some of them rightfully, maybe some of them not so much, but we're trying to find a new model and we don't yet have this new model. And so a lot of people feel very confused and lost. With men feel confused because you're no longer needed. The things that you used to do, right, for generations was appreciated, and suddenly you hear, we don't need this anymore. And if you think of this, nothing hurts more than feeling that you're useless. And that's how men feel these days. Men feel useless. Men feel like, I don't know, like, you don't want anything from me. You're not going to appreciate anything about me. So why would I even try? So I get this. And then from women's perspective, we're still on this wave of like, trying to heal. There's so much still sexual abuse going on in the world. Sometimes even when I hear my dad's, so just one generation up, some of the things he would say, and I'm just like, Dad, this is so inappropriate. It's one generation up, right? So there's a lot of healing that needs to be done. And I think, unfortunately, we're the ones kind of paying the price for this,
yes, Definitely.
But I think it's good to know because, humans have the tendency of thinking, there's something wrong with me because I'm single, because I cannot find, a partner. But I will say this, you can be single and extremely happy. It's not the way it used to be. Like we get to meet a lot of the needs that we normally meet, like we used to meet through a relationship in other ways. You can have very deep, intimate friendships. Like in the past, a man wasn't really allowed to have female friends, like at that level of depth. But right now, I'm pretty sure you as well, if you look at your life, you have really deep friendships with women,
right.
Which, like I think if I think of my grandfather, it would be very inappropriate, right? You would have to marry her if you walk with her through the forest by yourself. So we actually get to experience intimacy, not sexual intimacy, but emotional intimacy with other people. We have the best lives if you think about it. Like there's so many opportunities that we have. And everything is a trade-off. Being single has a price. Being in a relationship is a price. And I always say that our happiness should not be defined by our relationship status. Not to mention all of the couples out there who are miserable, where you have toxic relationships. Like, you're not going to tell me that being in a relationship is better. What I always care about is, okay, regardless of your relationship status, How can you be happy? How can your needs be met right now? All of those needs, right? And then let's work on that. Like, whether we meet someone or not, it's not 100% up to us, right? There's what are they called, fate or whatever, luck, whatever. But like, it's not really fully up to us whether we meet someone. And so let's own our part, right? Let's do 100% of what we can do, but we have to accept life. And so I personally believe, this is why I love talking about intimacy. I'm not a relationship coach. I'm not a dating coach for sure. I'm an intimacy coach, because intimacy exists in many other places, not just in your romantic relationship. And I believe that this is what we need the most. I don't think that we really miss relationships. What we miss is the fact that when we are in a relationship, we allow ourselves levels of intimacy that we don't allow ourselves with other people. But if you did allow yourself that intimacy with other people, then you would actually feel much better. Now, there is, of course, the conversation about sexual needs specifically.
Right.
And this is the price of being single. Again, like, no sugarcoating it. It is what it is. You can be hooking up with people, which is not as satisfying. I also understand it's not as easy. We don't live in a James Bond movie, right? It's like, it's a fantasy that doesn't necessarily happen in real life. But I would say this: masturbate, explore Tantra on your own, try to move energy through your body. Do things that move your energy. Remember, sexual energy that doesn't move causes frustration. Dance, shake, like just shake your whole body. Breathe deeply. These things will help move your sexual energy so you don't have that frustration. And I also tell all my single friends, and that's what I do as well, allow yourself to flirt with whatever gender you're into, right? But allow yourself to flirting with people. Like, do whatever you need to do so that you feel attractive, because you come off differently. Your energy changes, I'll tell you something. Remember when we met for coffee?
Right.
So on the way to meet you, I had a guy, like, just chat me up. I was like crossing the street, and this guy started just talking to me, totally hitting on me. And then when we left, I was on my phone for about 5 minutes. The moment I put my phone in my bag, this guy comes up to me. He followed me from our coffee shop because he wanted to talk to me. And all I did this morning is I was like, I feel like I really want to open my energy today. That's it, right?
I see.
So if we open our energy, we have these beautiful interactions that make us feel, I am still attracted. There is still hope for finding love. People look at me. I am wanted. That is really important.
Beautifully said and summed up. So we need one last question, because this is a Warsaw Confidential. It is somehow connected with Poland. And I can't help but feel that Poland has a very peculiar relationship with sex. What do you have to say about that?
So, yes.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
The short answer is yes. There's a couple of things here. First of all, we are a Catholic country, and sort of by definition, every Catholic country struggles with sexuality. Like, look at Spain, look at Portugal. It's incredible how conservative these countries are. So are we. The second thing is, and I cannot understand why, but men are not very sexual in Poland. I don't think men truly believe in themselves. So if I compare it to being abroad, let's say, and not everywhere, again, different areas have it differently. But if I'm in a place that's open and I'm in a coffee shop, people will just kind of chat with me, little conversation here and there. There's some interaction. There's a bit of flirt. But I noticed in Poland, when I walk, men don't even look at me. Like, they don't check me out. If we ever go to the gym together, you'll see what I wear. Literally, my outfit is slightly bigger than a bikini. Okay?
Oh, okay.
And no one looks at me.
Maybe they are just like afraid,
That's exactly my point. Men in Poland, they're very reserved. They're kind of afraid of approaching a woman. They're not very forward, right? So now you're missing this kind of proactive masculine sexual energy. And so the women are not responding, right? Yeah. So we don't really have a lot of polarity in our society. With women, I think women are awakening becoming more kind of independent. And again, it kind of takes them out of the feminine energy, more into the masculine.
Right.
And so I feel as a society, we're lacking the polarity. So it's, on one hand, it's the fact that, yes, we are a very traditional country. So sex traditionally, according to, Catholic values, is considered wrong. It's a sin. So we have this. And then I cannot tell you why, but just as our society, we don't have this polarity. But the good thing we have, and this is where I hope we will keep it, is that we still have gentlemen in Poland.
I fully agree.
Yes. So when I meet with people, very often, like, a man will, offer to pay for my coffee, which is a small gesture, but it means a lot. Men open the door. Like, Eastern Europe still has this. If you go to, like, Holland or Denmark, Berlin, it's like equal. It's horrible. I'm sorry. It's like, I'm not talking about you have to, pay for everything in my life, but it's a small gesture.
Yeah, it's so class.
Yeah, it's like I get to relax into my feminine and just receive. So automatically that creates polarity and a bit of tension. So we still have this, and I hope we're going to keep this.
Very good points, because I myself learned how to become or be a gentleman in Poland. Because I noticed, like, for example, in the elevator, when the guys, they step back and let the woman leave, I'm like, what they are doing, And, I was learning as I do it. And when I go back to my country and I do it in Morocco, and there's like, people are almost, or women are almost shocked. They're like, what is this guy doing, because they're not used to it. And it's like, probably just want to look at my ass or something, So there's this many, subtle nuances that in Poland that I love. And I love, Polish women and guys. And I agree with you when you say that the Polish guys need to take a little bit more action in their life in their hands. Yeah, well, we could go on and on. Do you have any parting words?
Oh, goodness. Oh, you're putting me on the spot.
Yes.
Okay, I'll say this. I think it's incredible that you're bringing this conversation
Thank you.
to Poland. I really, really do. And my invitation always is to anyone listening, just allow this to be like planting of the seed. Some people may be like, they're extremely shocked. It's like, oh my God, outrageous that this is what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like I said, at first when I heard some of these things, I was like, what? No way, never, ever. 3 years, right? That's how long I needed. So it's okay. But let's just start opening up for this. Let's start having these conversations. As long as we just pretend like sexuality doesn't exist, it's never going to be good, right? And so I really appreciated we having this conversation. And for anyone who actually stayed until the end, who was curious, like, we really make a big difference in this world by promoting and cultivating healthy sexuality.
Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate your input. I think you gave a lot of advice, good ideas, and let's keep, and spread love. Thank you, Magda.
Thank you so much, KAMAL. Thank you.